And turn 4, at the end of turn 4, he makes a very awesome move to move up and score his hold up the forces on my left side of the board with my Hannah and my Scavenger. But this gives me a huge leg up going into turn 5 because he can't kill those models or he won't have a way to score hold up.
Howdy folks, Greg here with another Path to Podium. This time it's the North Carolina Grand Tournament, the December decimation that happened last November. We got the 3 players that finished at the top, the winner being, of course, Cody Hiatt, who's currently first in the wildcard rankings. He reveals some really interesting Outcast secret tech that he brought to the event. It uses a model you wouldn't expect to see someone pay the out-of-keyword tax for. All of you Mei Fang players out there are going to really enjoy hearing how she brought one player to the podium. There's a great overview of a game between Levy and Sandeep in Idols. You Yoko players, make sure you stick to the very end of the episode during the outtakes. We have an interesting conversation about her. Brandon has a great play with Yasunori and a Charm Warder that you 10 Thunder players are going to enjoy. We talk about Cody's signature kitchen table prep, what he does before a tournament, and quite frankly, the results speak for themselves. The top table, round 5, was Cody's Terra against the infamous Shenlong list everyone has been talking about, so make sure you pay attention. There's a real interesting discussion about activation control and pass tokens. There's a lot of meat in this episode, so sit back and enjoy.
Playing a tabletop strategy game allows you to unplug and test your skills against friends. Every week, Third Floor Wars delivers useful strategies, discussions, battle reports, and reviews to tabletop games like Malifaux. If you want to get better at the games you already play, or discover the games other people are playing, you are in the right place. Craig and Ray welcome you to the Third Floor and the Tabletop Talk broadcast.
Craig here on the Third Floor. Today we're talking to the 3 people that made the podium in the 26-person, 5-round grand tournament held here in North Carolina back in November. My first guest placed 3rd in the event. Johnathan Pravlik has been mentioned on the show before. He's a dirty Arcanist, so when you hear me talking about getting my butt handed to me by an Arcanist, it's usually John that did it. But you might also know him from our live stream that we did. He was the Marcus player on one of the live stream battle reports. And I consider him one of the better Arcanist players here in the Carolinas Conference. He's also a good buddy of mine, so it's good to finally get you on the show. So, John, welcome to the Third Floor.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So, John, you're going to get the standard question that I always ask people that are new to the pod. So how did you get into miniature gaming?
So Malifaux is actually my first miniature game. I got into it from Patrick Kirby. He doesn't play so much anymore, but he's in our local group. Had a D&D game that was going on with him, and he introduced me to Malifaux because I was a lot more of a technical player, and he thought that I would enjoy it, and he was absolutely right about that.
So I didn't realize that, John, that this is your first minis game.
Yes.
So have you tried any other mini games, or has this been your first and only love?
Not really. I've dabbled in the other side a little bit, but no one really picked it up here because of lots of reasons, so...
Yeah, in fact, I just ended up selling my Abyssinia, unfortunately. It's a good game, and you were a big advocate for it too, John, but I didn't have time. I needed, if I was going to get a second minis game, it had to be something a lot less involved. But boy, did I hear good, and you were a big advocate of it. You said it was a really nice system. Yeah,
I really like it. I just think that Malifaux 3rd edition kind of needs to breathe a bit before we revisit the other side.
Yep. I'll be anxious to see what happens with it because I've yet to hear a bad word spoken about it. That's for sure. So our second guest, he placed 2nd in the event. Brandon Lynch, he is currently in 1st place in the Southeastern Conference. Brandon, you played 10 Thunders, and you only missed 1st place by 2 differential points. So that was the only difference between you and Cody. So Brandon, you're new to the show. Welcome to the Third Floor.
Thanks for having me. Good to finally be on.
Yeah, man. Now, you were kind of a last-minute addition, right? It was you weren't going to come, and then a ticket opened up, or how did that all come together?
So I was keeping kind of up with it, and then my work schedule was kind of wonky, so I found out week before the tournament if I was able to go, and called everybody up, was opened up with a ticket, called up John, was able to go, thankfully.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I appreciate you making the trip up there. So you guys have had, I think, if I remember correctly, you've had 2 qualifying events in the Southeastern so far. And I think you placed first and second in those 2 events. Does that sound right?
Correct, yeah.
Nice. And then, of course, placing second in this event does wonders for your wild card ratings. So I'm looking forward to seeing you at Masters. So, Brandon, how did you end up getting into Malifaux and miniature gaming?
So I kind of had a roundabout way of getting into it. My first gaming experience was Magic the Gathering, and I grew up building model cars. So one day I was at a Magic
tournament. Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So one day I was at a Magic tournament, and the shop had a bunch of models. I'm like, oh, cool, they got models. And then someone tells me, oh, do you play the game? And then at that point, mine was blown. I was like, I can build and play at the same time? Yeah. So, of course, got in 40K, like so many others. Took it on again, off again. Finally got into War Machine. Then played Guild Ball for a good bit. And finally got into Malifaux.
Yeah, Guild Ball is a good game. Do you dabble with it anymore, or is Malifaux pretty much your primary play now?
I still try to play, but it's died out. The tournament scene's died out real bad, so...
Yeah, it's too bad because from my understanding, what I'm hearing from other Guild Ball players is that's a lot of that's centered around some of the issues that Steam Forces had as far as getting product out there. And that's too bad because Guild Ball is a damn good game.
Yeah, it definitely is. And hopefully we can get it back up and running and I can have 2 skirmish games again.
Yeah, no, it's a good game. And I would be shocked if it died. But I miss playing it. I don't have the time to stay up with it, but boy, it was the game that saved me from Games Workshop. It was my first time playing something that wasn't Games Workshop, and I just realized what a good rule set looks like, and how much fun that can be. So, all right, guys. So our last guest is Cody Hiatt, who placed first. I think at this point, Cody has been on the show more than I have. So, but Cody, it's good to have you back. Now, what's interesting is I was going back and looking at the USFT stats, and you have 4 events logged, and you have placed first in all 4. And there's been a combined field of 79 players that you have played with in order to get first place those 4 times. And of course, the last time we heard you was on the Expert Roundtable that we did, which was a real popular episode that we got some good things back. So, Cody, welcome back to the third floor.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for all the accolades you just read off for me.
That's a big deal, man. That's quite a winning streak you got.
Yeah, you got to chill with the flirt. You're making me blush over here. But shout out to the floor heads for the start.
So just so you know, and I don't know if it'll happen before this episode comes out or not, Cody, but I've put together a design for Floorheads t-shirts. So
sick.
Yeah, so
put me on pre-order, bro.
So I think it'll be good. So I know what you've been up to lately, and that's been packing.
Yeah, I'm moving to Florida day after tomorrow. So all of our stuff is in those U-Pack containers where you just pack everything in containers and then they ship it down. So I'm just in a vacant house right now. I'm in a closet. It's pretty exciting stuff.
So it was kind of funny in the local chat. Cody posted a picture of all of his minis packed up and kind of tied inside of the crate, ready to go. And his caption was, "I hope you share my anxiety by looking at this."
Yeah, it was rough.
So, how many boxes total did you have to pack up? I know that you obviously had to pack up all your Malifaux, but I think you still have War Machine and everything, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I have way too much War Machine, dude. I have like 3 boxes full of War Machine stuff like big ass, like Home Depot boxes. I'll never get rid of my stuff, though. Whenever I sell painted minis, I'm sure you can relate to this. Whenever I sell painted minis, I always regret it. It's never worth the 30% of retail you get. It's like, I'd rather it sit on my shelf.
Yeah, I struggled with it, man. I mean, I held on to my most of my painted Warhammer stuff for years. And finally, honestly, I ended up, and I did, like, this is going to sound weird, but you might relate to this, Cody. I didn't want cash for them. Like I didn't want a value like that put on my painted work. So what I ended up doing was trading a good bit of it for the laptop that I use for all the recording and stuff. I got a really nice high-end Alien gaming laptop that I do a lot of the editing and stuff on. And like for me, like trading with somebody I was okay with for some weird reason as opposed to selling them.
Yeah, you get like a little bit better value that way too. And yeah it makes sense. Feels like you're feeding something without losing something.
Yeah. It, like the psychology of it is really odd. Sure. But your comment lets me know that you know exactly what I mean by it. So,
definitely.
All right, guys. So today what we're going to try to do is we're trying to learn how these three guys made it to Podium. So what was their path? Who did they play? What did they play? What were some of the key decisions in each one of the rounds that really determined whether they won or lost? And hopefully we'll be able to chance to, to kind of learn from them as we progress through that. So what I want to do, guys, is start with round one. So the first round was Wedge Turf War. The schemes were Vendetta, Detonate the Charges, Dig Their Graves, Assassinate, and Claim Jump. So, Cody, you obviously won your first round, and it was a pretty good win, 7-2, against a friend of the show, Jeff Mansker. And he comes out of the Capital City Conference. Some of you listening might know Jeff from the Pandora Deep Dive. So, Cody, other than having to deal with Jeff for 2.5 hours, how did the game go?
Yeah, Jeff is great. He was. I played. He played Colette. I think he might have been playing fixed Colette all day.
So here, a little bit of background on Jeff. So Jeff's a very good player, and he normally plays Neverborn. That's his faction. And he fell into a classic trap, which is a week and a half before the tournament, suddenly gets a bug up his rear end that he's going to play Arcanist. So he came down to play in a large, one of the larger competitive tournaments of the year with a brand new faction, which was a terrible choice. And it's so tempting, and everybody ends up making a dumb mistake. But Jeff's results at the end of that tournament does not reflect what a quality player is. But yeah, so he played Colette.
Yeah, I picked Levy more out of comfort than anything. I just as a little bit of a side, I have a pretty decent history of choking round one.
Okay.
So I think it's maybe nerves or something. Like generally when I have like a good morning, I'll have like a good round. Like when everything's humming, I find it difficult to lose like some later rounds sometimes, but I can easily drop round one. So I went Levy just because he's really easy. So
yeah, he's good.
You just delete models in front of you. It's like not hard.
Yeah.
So I think with each one of these little battle reps, I'll try to like highlight one particular turn where everything sort of swinged.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So in this game, Jeff was trying to dig his way out of a pretty big hole because turn one, I had claim jump with Rusty. So I played her very conservatively and took my 3 shots I get because she's still fast and focused at just the one thing I could draw LOS to, which was Angelica. And I still left her on like 1 HP. Like it was a super conservative play, and I flipped super hard. And he was digging his way out of that hole. And in doing so, he moved Envy forward so he can move Angelica back with Presto Changeo, I believe.
Yep.
And my last activation in turn one, I go, so Envy's got armor too, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, how much health he got? He's like, 6. I'm like, that's the perfect amount. Yay. So Levy just deletes Envy turn one. Angelica's on turn one, on 1 or like 3 health. He's just digging his way out of a hole.
Yeah.
And it added insult to injury. So turn 3 was the interesting turn. I shove Ashes down his throat because Ashes is basically unkillable by that crew. If you can't ignore armor and kill the core, yeah, then he's basically gonna kill it. Especially in Wedge, where there's only like 10 inches where Ashes can die and not just reform instantly from the edge.
Yeah.
So he spent I had Ashes really low, and he spent a lot of effort trying to Presto Changeo Ashes. And I thought he was trying to do it to move him to the center where he could potentially kill him. So when he goes to do that, I have concealment. So he has to stone to get it to a straight.
Positive, yeah.
And then he drops a 12. I have 2 13s in my hand, so I'm like, I'll just use this 13. And then he does it again, and I'm like, I'll use this other 13. So his master AP, his whole hand, 2 stones, all wasted to try and move Ashes. Doesn't happen. And at the end of the turn, he's telegraphing detonate. So I have a pretty cute play. He's trying to detonate on Ashes, is why he was doing all this.
Gotcha.
Where, Rusty goes, shoots Levy on the other side of the board, and gets in spot for claim jump. Levy goes, kills himself to teleport to the other side of the board, and then he kills Ashes, denying his detonate. So that was pretty much a very swingy turn where he didn't even get his one scheme that he worked really hard on, and I'm still like murdering the board.
Oh, so that's rough.
That's pretty much the story of that one.
Well, and losing Envy that early, you really did a number to his firepower and his threat capabilities.
His two beaters were basically dead before they got an activation. So.
Yeah, and that's brutal because Colette needs that help, and for you to take it out that early. So that's a nice way to get things started. Good for you.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Brandon, now you also had a large win round one. You played Nathan Hoyle. He's out of the Capital City Conference. It was a 7-2 win. Nathan plays Guild, right?
Yeah. He was playing Bass.
Oh, okay. And what did you bring?
I was bringing Mayfang. It's kind of funny how you say it's a idiotic play to play a faction you've never played before, because that's exactly what I did. Now, on that note, I have been playing Mayfang as a Arcanist since beta.
Right.
So that's why I played her first round. I felt comfortable. I really like her into Turf War, and Dig Their Graves is an auto take with her.
And why is that? I'm not familiar enough.
So your 5-point Gaimons are walking forges, so they can sit in the back and walk, drop a scheme marker, interact, and then at the end of their activation, they drop a scrap marker. Next turn, they do the same thing, and you auto get your end game point.
Right. So your second point's a breeze.
Yeah, and what I like to do with May is what happened on turn 2, which kind of started turning the tides. So going into the top of turn 2, Reinhardt was at pretty low health, engaged with May, and I was able to use her ability to push out of combat, drop a scheme marker, and then come back in and kill him, and to get my first point of dig. So that's usually a good tech. And
nice. Well, what was your other scheme, Brandon?
My other scheme was claim jump on the Metal Golem.
Got it.
I tend to like to do that because putting bombs in your belly and with the concealment makes them really reluctant to come into them, blast them back onto other people, and he can hold the center pretty well with Sparks healing him up.
Yeah. Now, I've never played against Cornelius Bass. Now, I've read the card, and I'm familiar with Bass, but I've never actually seen him on the table yet. What was kind of your take on Bass?
He was pretty interesting. He took 5 traps against me, which really bogged me down at the beginning until I kind of realized and remembered what May does, and I can just teleport out of it. So with her being able to do that, kind of stopped his game plan from working, and I was able to just get into him faster than he could whittle me down.
It's an interesting decision on Nathan's part to do that because, I mean, if you look at the pool, there's really nothing that's requiring you to be in a specific place. And, when you try to do that trap bomb, that can be real valuable, I think, when, you have a lot of schemes that focus you on locations and kind of dictate the field of battle, which you didn't really see here. So that's interesting. Now, you said you historically played May in Arcanist, right? Here you're running her in 10 Thunders. Which of the two do you like her better in? So if someone's a May fan, do you think they're better off in Arcanist or 10 Thunders?
I really like her in the Arcanist because she has a little bit more support with the Mech Rider. It's one of my favorite riders, one of my favorite models. And with the Mech Rider being able to throw a scrap marker 6 inches out after riding with me, you got your 12-inch. You can go wherever you want, pretty much, with her on turn 1.
Yeah, and that's funny because it was often like the conventional wisdom is that the Mech Rider's garbage. but you like the Mech Rider, and is that specifically just in Mei Fang, or did you bring the Mech Rider with other Arcanist Masters?
I played around with her a little bit in Colette for the fact that you can get 4 activations with the Corfei Duet and the Mech Rider in one turn.
Yeah, that seems good.
It's good when it goes off, but it takes a pretty extensive setup to do and can be shut down pretty easily if they see it coming.
Yeah, which usually is a terrible formula for Malifaux.
Yeah.
So you scored on Turf War, so you got 7 points. How did it break down? So obviously you got 2 for Dig.
I got 2 for Dig. Got both of my points for Claim Jump due to the Sparks being able to just sit behind the Metal Golem and heal them. Yeah. And the Totem is able to, at the end of activation, rip off Shielding, rip off Focus, and Burning to heal them for 3 more.
That's so good.
Yeah, so I was able to get both points on that and then 3 points on my Turf War markers.
Turf War.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. So, John, you had a nice win, 5-2, playing one of the Carolina Conference's better players, Jesse Watson. So that was, first off, what a tough matchup, round 1.
Yeah, no kidding.
Jesse is a guild player and henchman here in the Carolinas, and excellent player, which makes that 5-2 win even a bigger deal. John, what did you bring? What did he bring?
So I brought Ironsides. Seemed like a good idea for Turf War, and he brought Sonya.
Nice.
And I think the definitive thing that kicked it off was I was able to use Ironsides to pull Sonya all the way across the board because he just positioned her too far forward.
Yep.
And by the end of turn 2, she was dead.
That's good.
yeah, it's okay. It's decent.
It's a good way. Good.
Yeah.
That's a good master to kill on turn 2. So that's nice. Boy, it's amazing, John, how easy it is to underestimate the reach that Ironsides has.
Yeah, it really is, because her lure is a 12-inch, and a lot of people don't assume that it's that long because she's a melee beatstick. So, it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's real easy to pull it in. So obviously, I would say the key turn was turn 2, obviously, when you took out Sonya. Any other key moments that really made the difference?
I think getting Vendetta. I had Vendetta on a Soulstone Miner against, I think it was a lawyer. It was against something, like some support model in the back. I was able to just unbury, charge it, and get my first point, and then bury, and it's gone for the rest of the game until I need to pop it up at the end. Get my second point by killing it with Ironsides. It's 2 points right there.
Yeah, that's interesting, John. I don't think I've ever thought about that. What a good. Let's do a whole podcast on how we need to make Soulstone Miners good. But
they seriously need a buff.
Yeah, they do. So weak. I'd like to see him on the table.
Listeners at home, Craig's earphones are flying off his head from the steam coming out his ears.
But I, to be honest with you, though, John, I had not thought about how good they are for Vendetta. That's interesting.
Yeah, they're not the best killers, but all you have to do is get something close to half and then just pop them out at the right time. And then you can keep them safe the rest of the game. Yeah, and it also allows you to actually get more use out of them in general, because so often they're there to score a particular scheme and then they vanish. Like breakthrough. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's a good way, especially if both are in the pool, it's a good way to bluff one and then do the other. Oh, good call. Didn't think about that either. That's nice. Can you go over, because we just recently had an Ironsides deep dive. John, do you remember your whole crew? Yeah, so I had Ironsides and Mouse, obviously. I had 2 Soulstone Miners, 1 with Magical Training, because that's the thing you do. I took the Steam Arachnid Swarm with Diesel Engine. I had Fitzsimmons, Arcane Effigy, and the Captain. Nice. Now, is Captain an auto take for you in Ironsides? No, not at all. I took it because of Sonya in particular. Oh, that's interesting. Why? Because she does a lot of shooting, so it seemed like, that was kind of a decent way to reduce damage. And I didn't plan this to work out the way it did, but after luring her in, his hammer ignores Shielded, which Jesse is a huge fan of Shielded on Sonya. And yeah. So if I were to reach out to Jesse, he might have the same love of Arcanist that I do at this point. Possibly. That's funny. So, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back from this break, we're going to talk about round 2, which is a Wedge Reckoning round. We'll be right back.
Howdy friends, Craig here. Nothing makes Malifaux easier than having the right tools. Here at the third floor, we love all the licensed Malifaux goodies from Custom Meeple. Not only are they helping support this podcast, they sell custom-made weird licensed tokens and terrain. They sell it all. Crew boxes, terrain, markers, tokens, and even a 3x3 full Malifaux board. Custom Meeple sells a complete M3E token set covering every marker and token you need to play. Custom Meeple are the source for the official accessories for Malifaux. Everything is designed by hand and authorized by Weird Games. Check them out at custommeeple.com, that's with one M, or follow the link in the show notes. Up your Malifaux game and be sure to tell them Craig from the third floor sent you. If you use the promo code Third Floor Friend, all one word, THIRDFLOORFRIEND, you'll get a 5% discount and help support the podcast. It's valid on everything except retail products and playmats. All right, so obviously, no big shocker that these guys, each had a nice win in round one. But if you ever played in a 5 or a 6 round event before, as you go through and as you're winning, things get harder and harder because you start matching up against better and better players. You can also do the Craig technique, which is lose round 1, round 2, and round 3. So by the time you get to round 5, you're basically battling the other worst player, and you got about a 50-50 chance. But let's talk about what round 2 was. Round 2 was Wedge Reckoning. The schemes were Harness the Ley Line, Search the Ruins, Power Ritual, Outflank, and Claim Jump. Now, John, you played Patrick Seaman out of the Capital City Conference. Patrick's a real good guy, but you had an impressive 8-0 victory. And usually there's a story behind that. So what happened there?
Yeah, so I'll be upfront in saying that I don't think it should have went this way. Statistically, just things happen that really shouldn't have. I played Ironsides into Leviticus. I was anticipating either Parker or Vix, which I feel like Ironsides would be a good solution for.
Yeah.
But he brings Levy. So right off the bat, I'm thinking that this is going to go horribly because Ironsides can't do her thing against Levy.
Yeah.
So I end up just going for, honestly, a Hail Mary. And turn 2, I just throw Ironsides up into his crew and engage as much as possible. Also during this turn, something else critical that happened is I brought Langston, and I actually did kill Ashes and Dust because I got 2 execute triggers, and he only had 1 card and no soul stones.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah. So that was going on the left side of the board. In the middle, he goes last with Levy on turn 2. He gets 3 attacks on Ironsides. I think he misses 1 attack, and then he cheats his only severe on turn 3 to go first with Levy. And attacks 3 more times, misses twice.
Oh, that's brutal.
And honestly, that really feels like that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Like whiffing 3 out of 6 attacks, and she was on 2 wounds left, and she takes 1 irreducible from entropy. So if he had done a point more damage at any point in this game, she would be dead, and it would be probably an 8-0 the other way.
Right. Now,
was he channeling those Levy punches too?
Yes, he was.
Okay, so you probably did like 8 damage to him on his activation.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
That's brutal. So at that point, and plus you got the ability to get Tony healed up, right? With what are those tokens called? Her
adrenaline.
Her adrenaline, yeah.
A little bit. You have to use her lure to heal her up, which I did do once because it was worth doing.
Yeah.
But the turn 3 activation after Levy had gone, I went with Ironsides and living the dream. I'm in the middle of like 4 models. I get all the adrenaline I could ask for. I kill 3 models in 1 activation.
God.
And from there, he's just like, okay, this is over.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's literally playing Ironsides' game. That's exactly what you want to happen. So it sounds like kind of the perfect thing. It really was. Patrick's not a bad player, so that must have been brutal for him.
Good. I could tell he was not a pushover.
Yeah, that's brutal.
This was honestly a fluke.
Yeah, that happens though. But we'll take it, right, John?
Yeah, for sure.
Now, round 2, we actually have Brandon and Cody playing each other. And they tied each other, and it was the only non-win for both of them. So, Brandon, let's start with you. What crew did you bring?
So I brought Mayfang again. I was planning on bringing Lynch, but I figured I was playing against Cody, so I had to bring my best.
Yeah.
And it's just the crew that I knew the best. And I brought May with the Metal Golem, 2 Metal Gaiman, Shadow Emissary, Sparks, and the Mechanized Pork Chop.
Wow, how many models total is that? 6 models? 7 models? Oh, it was 8 models. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. You had 2 of the Gaiman, right?
It's 8 models, including the Totem. And
Got it.
Yeah.
And Cody, what did you bring?
So going into round 2, I was talking with Jesse about his game with Pravlik a little bit, and we were talking about round 2, and he's like, well, a couple of my goals going into this event were to try out some secret tech I have for the later rounds, and then 2, I wanted to get a sensible levy loss because he's busted, and I wanted to figure out how to lose with him. But I was thinking, if I play any kill games, I'm going to not play Levy into Thunders because Shenlong has to be a bad matchup for him, surely, so I won't do that.
Okay.
So when I get Thunder, I'm talking with Jesse, and he's like, I don't know how you lose round 2, looking at this pool, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know either. And I guess if I get Thunders, then I might lose. And then, of course, I get Thunders, and of course, I get my backup in the Thunders is Parker, and we end up playing on this lab board that you've probably seen on some of Craig's TFW pictures, where it's so much LOS blocking terrain because there's all these corridors and stuff like that. So I was not a happy camper going into this game, playing a Parker list there.
So what did you bring?
Oh, I played typical stuff. So Sue, Convict, Woku with the upgrade, Mad Dog, the Totem, obviously. I teched in Ashes and Dust because Outflank was in the pool, and it's almost impossible to stop Outflank with Ashes. And I got the decent side effect of his bonus action removing, what are those, scrap markers?
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yep.
So, Brandon, in your mind, so now you know you're going up against Parker. Have you faced Parker before?
I've played a couple of them. Our henchman likes to play him a little bit. So I knew how to kind of play against him, but Cody took a completely different list than I was used to.
What was different about it?
The Ashes and Dust definitely threw me off. I understand why after seeing it. But Matt kind of likes to bring a lot of convict gunfighters and do more of a gun line.
Yeah, those guys, you melted them quite quickly, so I'm sure you're pretty comfortable with that. I think we could, if you want, Brandon, we could skip to turn 5 because I think turn 5 was super interesting. The story of the game up until 5 was that he punched in my left flank and I punched in his left flank. We both were smart enough to not bring a bunch of reckoning points. All of Brandon's list was enforcers or minions, so he had 8 points and I had 9 or 10. So we both had only scored 1 reckoning point going into turn 5, and Brandon had a really sweet move to score at the end of turn 4. You want to talk about that, Brandon?
Yeah, so the end of turn, it actually comes back to the end of turn 3 where I almost messed up in giving him a point. I brought my totem into the center of the field to kind of drop a scrap marker, and forgetting that he's significant, which almost gave Cody a second reckoning point. So I dropped the scrap marker, and at the end of turn 4, I wait to go last with my metal golem and just teleport him 12 inches into the middle of the field with claim jump.
Nice.
Yeah, so going into turn 5, we both have search. I have outflank. He has claim jump. We both have to put down markers. Reckoning's basically off the table. Neither of us are I think we both respect each other enough to not to not assume that the other one's going to give him the reckoning point. So I either have to kill the rail golem, get it below half, and he has to try and deny outflank. We both have to get down 1 or 2 more markers for search. You won initiative, right, Brandon?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think you went first and basically just put shielded on the rail golem. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it sounds about right. Threw up my aura, uses free action, throw shielding.
So I have Mad Dog in range, who statistically, if I drew 2 13s, I didn't. But if I did, I could dumpster rail golem first activation, or at least get him low enough. The problem is he has Sparks in that list who could heal him.
Yeah.
So if I go first activation with Mad Dog, try and knock him below half, he could quite easily heal up.
You almost at that point, Cody, have to get him off the table.
Yeah. So my first activation was Parker, which I misplayed pretty badly. It wasn't massively bad, but I basically did one of those things I was talking about on the round table where I did like a greedy play, and it came to bite me in the butt. So basically, I tried to have Parker do at least a little bit of damage to the Rail Golem so that I could get another marker down for Mad Dog and make him fast. What I should have just did was drop the marker for Mad Dog and not try to get the greedy play out of it, not try to get cute with it, and just go for the conservative play. So I didn't do that. I dropped like a severe trying to damage the Rail Golem, but he had shielded and Parker couldn't really get through it. So that basically meant where I had to delay a little bit longer on Mad Dog to try and get him fast so that he could shoot him.
So knowing how that ended up, where did you guys deny each other? So Cody, obviously you had some denial on Brandon and Brandon on you. So where did that play out?
So I'll do a little more setting the stage, I guess.
Yeah.
In that we measured, we spent a little bit of time pre-measuring out to see if May could get to one of my Search the Ruins markers, and we found out that she couldn't. And I'm like, okay, well, one of the second to last activations, I'd go ahead and put Ashes where he can get his outflank. And then Brandon went and activated May. He could explain that.
Yeah, so I went and activated May to try and deny the outflank point, which brought her over to Ashes and Dust, and with Jackhammer Kick was able to push him 4 inches outside, just outside of the outflank range.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was a pretty complicated back and forth where I'm like, okay, how do I make Mad Dog fast? How do I kill the Rail Golem? How do I do this? And we're both delaying activations appropriately. It went back and forth. We're both getting our search markers down. We're both making sure the other can't deny the search. And then he goes and just kicks Ashes out of the way, which would have been the winning point for him. But so instead of, all this lead up to maybe Mad Dog getting him below half with my last activation, instead he has to disengage, walk charge, kill Ashes so that Ashes breaks apart and scores me outflank. So it was a fairly anticlimactic ending, but it was very back and forth and super interesting turn, I think.
So that last play, Cody, so what you did is broke Ashes up in order to be able to score the outflank?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Because of the replace effect, you place base to base, and even though he was 4 inches away from the center, when I placed the core on the back of that 50 mil base, it was within the 2 inches or 3 inches.
Got it.
For outflank. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. So, Brandon, looking back at the game now, where do you think you left points on the table?
The first round, I kind of messed up a little bit with the pork chop. Where I brought him up, I was trying to get Mad Dog to my right flank, which I did, but not realizing that he would die turn 1. So definitely probably be a little bit more conservative and use the blocking terrain a little bit better.
Who took out the pork chop?
Was it Mad Dog? And then Parker came behind and finished it off? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably my big mistake as well, is that I got a little greedy. I sent Mad Dog down a flank to kill Pork Chop because it was a free kill almost because I had high severes in him. And I could ignore the cover with the blow it to hell. But that put him on the flank, so he couldn't kill Rail Golem the next turn.
Right.
So Rail Golem just punched in my other flank, killing Sue on turn 1 and the Convict on turn 2.
That's big. How about you, Cody? Looking back on it, other than that, was there any other points you left on the table?
Yeah, I basically had like those 3 greed plays. One, which was send Mad Dog off to the left to kill the Pork Chop for giggles, basically. The second was that Parker activation, trying to get more damage than I deserved. And the third was also, it was just killing too many models turn 1. I didn't need to extend to kill Pork Chop. And then I extended the Sue and the Convict to kill a golem. Sorry, not a golem, a gammon, a metal gammon. So I killed 2 models turn 1, which basically meant I was going to have more difficulty scoring Reckoning. And I didn't need to kill those models.
Yeah.
Like, in retrospect, even if I didn't know that he had claim jump with the Rail Golem, that was still the only target I really needed to care about was the rail golem.
Yeah, that's tough, man. That's tough round one. I mean, when they're serving them up on a plate like that, and you have the potential of removing 5 turns worth of activations turn one on a model, sometimes it's worth the trade to say I'm not going to get that reckoning point. But I think what you're saying, Cody, is that, these guys were not going to have a huge impact if they were alive for turn 2. So maybe holding off would have been the better choice.
Yeah, I usually never hold off, but Brandon brought a very good list for Reckoning in that after I killed those 2 models outside of May, I was never going to score again.
Yep, no, that makes sense. All right, guys, we're going to take another quick break. When we get back from this break, we're going to talk about round 3. Now, round 3 was a flank corrupted idols round. We'll be right back. Howdy friends, here on the 3rd floor, you'll find us playing Malifaux and other games on Mats by Mars. They are scratch resistant, waterproof, wet erase marker compatible, and lighter than neoprene. Mats by Mars gives you over 40 designs to choose from. Pick a mat size, pick a design, then choose an overlay like the one for Marvel Crisis Protocol or Malifaux 3rd Edition. It will speed up deployment and the placement of strategy and objective markers. If you're going to AdeptCon this year, be sure to check out the Mats by Mars booth. Until the end of March 2020, you can use the new promo code 3rdFloor320, that's 3rdFloor320, to get a 10% discount on your next order. In the notes, you can ask for the 3rd Floor logo to be put on your mat for free. Again, use the promo code 3rdFloor320 to get a 10% discount. Details are in the show notes. So round 3, we've got Corrupted Idols, and it's in flank deployment. The schemes are detonate the charges, break through, hold up their forces, take prisoner, and assassinate. Now, Cody, you played a good friend of ours, Jeremy Peace, out of here out of the Carolinas Conference. There's a lot of things to like about Jeremy. One of the things not to like about him is that he is an Arcanist, but he's a really annoyingly good Arcanist player, because this is similar to John's story. Jeremy's never played miniatures games before. He picked this up like 7 months ago, and I mean, the guy gets in like 5-6 games a week, it feels like, and it shows when you play him. And you had a nice win, 7-5 against Jeremy. So what did you bring? What did he bring?
Yeah. Jeremy's great. Yeah, like you said, he's a new player, but he's definitely a huge threat. He's learned like super quick, and he has like a winner's attitude.
Yep.
So he's doing super well. And going into this tournament in our chat, I was like, I have 3 predictions. One of them I didn't voice, and that was that Jeremy gets in the top 10. I'm like, I'm not saying that because I'm afraid that would put too much pressure on you. And then I told him after this round, and then he ended up like 6, I think.
Yeah, Jeremy did really well.
Yeah, he did great.
Yeah.
But I knew he had Sandeep, because going into the tournament, rather, I saw his freshly painted Sandeep stuff that he had just got, and I knew that, summoners are really good at Corrupted Idols, and a lot of the local chatter has been about Sandeep and Summer in these like Aura Masters taking forever to finish the game.
Yep.
So I chose Levy more to finish the game than anything. This was like a very good Terra pool, and I think Pravlik actually plays Terras.
Unfortunately.
So spoiler, it's a good Terra pool. But I felt like playing OP Levy and just killing stuff as soon as possible felt like the best strategy to finish the game. Yeah. So this is the first round where I unveiled my super secret tech, which was Hannah out of Keyword with a scavenger.
Interesting.
So I spent a lot of time on my kitchen table testing this out because, like I mentioned before, I do that. I play against myself on my kitchen table. Being here in Malifaux house arrest, just sort of by myself.
Yep.
So I tested Hannah a lot because we recently learned that general actions are also tactical actions.
Mm-hmm.
So for a 6, she can at worst be nimble and at best charge again. So she's like pseudo fast.
Yep.
And if you have a scavenger, Hannah can quite easily, on turn 2, go into a target with fast and focus 3. So she punches 4 times. She has a severe 6 and pretty easy access to crit strike. So it's not completely insane that she can have 33 damage against a single target, which feels like maybe the highest in the game. I don't know. It's very, very high. And on top of that, she's bringing Arcane Reservoir, which Levy can bring the Scavengers, which are very impressive with their tools for the job and their ability to draw off the discard pile.
Yeah.
But I find that you waste that a lot if you don't have a 7-card hand, because you end up getting to a point where you already have the cards you need in hand, like maybe you have a 6 that you need for a leap, and ditching that 6 to get a 10 doesn't actually change what you need to do.
Yep.
So a lot of times you just end up drawing off the discard and throwing it right back down. But with Hannah, having the 7-card hand, you could bring 2 of those tools for the job and walk around with like 4 severes, which makes Levy absolutely busted. If he can go in and punch things with like 4 severes. So anyway, to get back to my game with Jeremy, I brought that tech and I thought it was awesome and it was fun to play.
So you haven't told us what Jeremy was playing.
Oh, sorry. He's playing Sandeep. Yeah.
Okay.
He's playing Sandeep. And he had he had the Metal Golem and some other Sandeep stuff.
Yep.
Generic elemental gammon guys. And the story of this game is probably turn 4. So Jeremy had done an exceptional job of summoning models and just jamming me up so hard. I'm spending all of Levy's health just to kill these things that blow up in my face, and he's taking damage to throw the markers 3, and then he goes and he throws that marker again, another 3.
Yep.
Just to like add insult. He's like, I got health to spare, dude. You don't. So he's just punching idols deep into my deployment zone. He did an exceptional job with idols, so I didn't score a scheme until like turn 4.
Oh boy, that's stressful.
Yeah, because every time I had to save my Necropunks to try and stay even on the strategy with him. So I could never get over there to score a breakthrough, which was my scheme. And I had Assassinate, which I got because I'm Levy.
But that's a lot of pressure, though, that Sandeep can bring into idols. That really forced you to recover using AP that you were hoping to scheme with.
Yep, definitely. I killed so many models, but it didn't matter because it was so many summons, and it was they have all their demise effects, which he just just plays into his game even more.
Yep.
So the game really come down to like the end of turn 4. I had Ashes and Dust standing on like 2 idols or next to 2 idols, and he had Bonasuva there. Bonasuva left Ashes on 1 health. So going into turn 5 initiative, there was a world where Bonasuva could have activated first, killed Ashes, and then moved the idol marker where I couldn't have got it, and that would have been like a point, maybe a 2-point swing.
Yeah.
Depending on what I could have done with Ashes. But instead, I drew the red Joker in turn 5, threw it down for initiative, killed Bonasuva first thing. He didn't really have the models to score much else, so he got his... so I was able to get the idol there, and that was the story of that one.
So it's tied up to all the way up to turn 5.
Pretty much, yep. And then I won 7-5.
Yeah, so... Cody, you mentioned the trick with Hannah and copying general actions.
Yeah.
Did you teach Roper that before this game? Because he pulled the same thing in the same round against me.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Thanks for that, by the way.
Roper's in the chat.
Yeah, it was in the chat, and I was like, I saw the ability on the Gups card that says walk and charge are tactical actions, and I asked the chat, I'm like, wait a second. Does this mean Hannah's basically a fast model? That's kind of insane. And everyone's like, it seems like it. So since then, I've been experimenting with her a lot. It's really strong. Yep.
Yeah, it seems like it. It's just funny that it happened in the same round against me. It's wow, that's interesting.
It's funny. So, John, let's talk about your round. So, you, like you said, you played Michael Roper, which is another player here in the Carolinas Conference, and Michael was playing Outcasts. And this was actually your only loss of the entire event. It was a 2-6 loss. We know Michael brought Hannah, but what was his master?
So he brought Terra.
Okay.
Which wasn't expecting that, although now that I've seen Terra, I will absolutely expect that in the future.
Yeah. And what did you bring?
Again, I brought Ironsides because I was anticipating possibly Vix or Parker. And it was a disaster from the word go, to be honest. I had started to spread out my forces to try to like hold a lot of different parts of the center line, as I would expect to do for Cryptid Idols. And instead, he just shoves everything in a corner. He draws like a 12 or 13 of crows every turn.
Jeez.
Every single turn. So he can cheat initiative at like a 15 or a 16. Drop that idol in his corner that's protected by Nothing Beast, Hannah, and a like the dog that she summons or whatever it is. I don't remember what it is.
The wretch. Oh, yeah, the hunter. Void hunter, sorry.
Void hunter, that's the one, yeah. So it's all that in a corner, and I'm like, well, I can't get in that. And he gets 4 idols in that corner. I can't stop any of that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I've got a Steam Arachnid Swarm going all the way around the field because I expected to have to hold the left part of the board, and he just sent absolutely nothing that way. So that was like 2 turns wasted there. The schemes I took were Detonate and Assassinate, which not great options, but I honestly don't know what else I could have taken in this pool. He did give me Assassinate, to be fair, because he was kicking the idols with Terra.
Oh, okay.
So I got a point there, and then I kind of thought with the Detonate charges, I could use a Union Miner to just put 2 down and lure something in there. But now that I know Terra and he can bury anything at will, it's like, well, I'm not going to try that again.
Yeah, Tara is good. And I got to tell you, John, I mean, what you're talking about, because remember, I think you and I caught up after that round because you were understandably very frustrated. And it's something I don't like about idols is you can have a real swingy game based off of the hand draw at any point in time. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's going to be rare, but it's such a negative game experience when it does happen. I mean, for him to have severe crows to dictate those idols every single round. Yeah. I mean, John, that must have been brutal.
Well, the thing is, after I saw it the first time, I was like, okay, I'll use Fitzsimmons. I'll use his like ranged willpower attack to make him discard, and it goes off. So I've drained his hand one turn. The next turn he draws again. It's like, well, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, that sucks. That sucks. I mean, there's things about idols I really like, but that random aspect of it, I'm not crazy about it. I wonder if it would be more interesting if, each round the idols dropped in a specific place and it was different so that you couldn't just corner up and control it. Like you're going to be forced to deal with idols popping up all over the damn place. And that could potentially make that an interesting scheme. I don't know.
Yeah. What if it was something like there would be an idol on every point? Because there's 5 points for idols to drop. So what if progressively through the game they dropped on all 5 points and it's just initiative determines what order that happens in, maybe?
Yeah, or what order it happens in, or you know the order. That could be interesting too. Yeah. I know it's going to make it maybe work left to right into the center by turn 5 or something. I mean, there's something there that would minimize kind of that randomness luck factor that I think was fun. So I understand why they did it, but I've had enough games of idols where that's frustrated me, and just to hear how one-sided that made your game, John, that's frustrating.
I think if you just remove the crow position, because that's the swingy position.
Good point.
Like,
especially on flank, because it's wedged in that corner.
Yeah, it can be super swingy. I've had games where I put 4 idols in one corner. It's insane.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. So, Brandon, you played one of the Carolina boys, Marcus, who plays Bayou. You had a tight win, 5-4. So what did you bring? What did he bring?
I actually brought Yoku.
Nice.
I've been playing her out and really like her in the idols. As you were saying about, it's a luck of where the idols drop. It's not that case with Yoku. It's where Yoku wants them.
Yeah.
Because, it's easy to win initiative when you have 5 or 6 pass tokens every turn.
Right.
But he had brought May. And he brought Ma. I was expecting a focused, heavy, Bushwhacker or Rooster Rider list.
Yep.
And he actually didn't bring a single Rooster Rider. He brought the Pigapult, which is completely insane with sparks.
Yeah.
Throw bombs and a Bayou Gremlin and a Pigapult, and there's 6 damage on any models you want.
That was the last time that I kind of lost my shit was the first time that I went up against Marcus and that stupid Pigapult Sparks deal. And I tend to be I'm really good at losing. Like, I'm used to it, right? And like, he did that stuff to me, and it didn't help the fact that I had McMorning. And so I had everything bubbled up nice for him, right? Because McMorning starts turn 1 in a big bubble so he can get poison everywhere. Mm-hmm. And when I realized what was happening and that I was just getting dealt 2 and 3 damage and there was nothing I could do about it. There's no card I could cheat. There was no flip I could flip. Like, it was just unanswerable, no uncontested damage that was coming out. Like, I gave up turn 2 and I'm like, dude, this is just stupid. This is dumb. And it's probably the last time that I've like really kind of looked and said, this is like, obviously I was losing, so I was pissed, but in my mind, it was like, this is bad for the game. Like, I feel like this is not good to have that much uncontested damage. So Brandon, did you know what that was like? Had you seen that before, or did you get spanked like I did?
I had a feeling it was coming. I just didn't think how fast it could come. That put 6 damage on Yoku, Fuhatsu, and killed my Tanuki on the second activation.
I get so mad hearing about this.
Oh it was bad. But luckily, I still had Bill with the Stoic Non, and I was able to bring up Yoku and Fuhatsu. He spent a lot of time killing Fuhatsu on that match, which brought in Ma. I had taken Assassinate and Hold Up Their Forces. With Geishas, it's pretty good, bringing them in, giving them slow, negative willpowers. Generally get it pretty well. The game should have went a lot better because I also took Assassinate and he dived Ma right into my crew.
Yeah.
But he loved flipping 12s and 13s against Ma. It seemed like every person that I attacked Ma with, he was like, oh, here's a 13. And it was a little frustrating, but I was able to get around and get the 1 point of Assassinate and 1 point of Hold Up the Forces. But what really made the game was I was able to dictate where those idle markers went. Yeah. And just kept something right there and was able to just flick them over.
Yeah, it's funny. Yoku, of course, we haven't seen a ton of Yoku on the table because she's relatively new. And I'm a little ashamed that I hadn't thought about how just strong she would be into idols. Now, Brandon, question for you on that, though. Does she have the wounds to give for idols? I mean, obviously, you could dictate where the idols are going to be, but does she have throwaway health or good healing?
So I took Fuhatsu, Bill, and a Tanuki, and with 2 healers, and then Fuhatsu has Juggernaut as well. Yeah, it gives me enough healing to be able to do that.
That makes sense.
But her herself, she doesn't really have that much extra health.
Yeah. Yep.
I think the healing part of idols is like a decent first read element that you see. But the more I've played idols, it feels like you need AP volume and then something else to either draw a bunch of severes, way more than the heal. Because a lot of the time, moving the idol 1 inch is the correct play anyway.
Right.
So I don't feel like the heals is the most important part of idols.
So kind of like, I guess that's what I mean by kind of like the throwaway wounds, right? Which is that AP efficiency, but that's well said, Cody.
Bill also is good with that as well, because his ability, whenever they reveal a scheme, he heals 3 and gains fast.
So you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, he was kind of bouncing back and forth between the idols and keeping his models away from the center where I was dropping them and kind of playing a jack of all trades.
So, John, question for you. Like, generally speaking, kind of similar, what Cody was saying, what is your take on idols? Like, what do you think is kind of some of the secret sauce that, regardless of faction, people need to think about when going into idols?
The way I see idols is more mobility. Maybe this is just speaking as an Arcanist player. We don't have a lot to control initiative. We do have some decent fast options, so I try to look at it as more the idols are going to drop where they're going to drop, and it's important to get to them and also be able to spread out and not have your crew just fall apart. So maybe I think that's definitely like faction specific.
Yeah, because you don't have the the control of initiative that other factions have. So that makes sense where then you would have to fall back on mobility.
Right. We can control the board with some masters, Raspy and Karis. And that is a decent option, but you have to know where the idols are going to be. So it's like, yeah.
So John, when you play idols, it sounds like on this one you kind of spread out. Is that your normal play, is to kind of spread out and be ready to go, or do you like to push to one side and hope for the best?
I try to spread out. I try to have at least one model that can be pretty independent and hop over to the other side if need be. This is going to trigger you, I know, but Soulstone Miners are pretty decent at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've also seen, obviously not relevant in this tournament because it was a singles, but Mei Fang as a second master seems to be really, really good for
That makes sense. And because of the position you're in and your approach to it, I mean, mobility is everything, right? Because you have to adjust on the fly depending on how that initiative goes.
Yeah, so it's like you can set up on one side, have like 70 to 80% of your stuff there, and then just, send one good thing the other way.
Yep. And then and have the mobility to adjust as need be.
Yep.
That makes sense. Okay, guys, let's take another break. When we get back from this break, we're going to talk about round 4. So this is the start of day 2, and it was standard plant explosives. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Alexander Zdanchuk from Riga, Latvia, and I'm a patron of Third Floor Wars. Those guys open the beauty of Malifaux 3rd edition to me and continue to provide tons of great content. You can support them too. Follow the links in the show notes below or search for Third Floor Wars at patreon.com.
So how much are 3 or 4 of these episodes worth to you a month? Third Floor Wars has a Patreon, and if you think they're worth $1, $5, $20 a month, swing by and become a patron. We have polls to decide the next episode of the pod, along with early releases of articles and podcasts. Everything we release goes out to everyone, but sometimes our patrons get a head start. The link is in the show notes, or just search for Third Floor Wars on patreon.com. Thanks for the support. Wow, did we get an influx of patrons. I want to give a special thanks to Florian, Carl Lee, Jeff Mansker, Nathan Linder, Maximilian, Vers, Carlton Oldham, Roman Heckenberger, Astrid Cry, Tomas, Anthony Dudden, Klaas, Johnathan Clark, Paul Mason, Atticus Porter, Michael Pace, Rufus, Zach Rogan, Ola Sten, and Joss Gadja. Thanks so much. All right, so at the beginning of day 2, round 4 is standard deployment with plant explosives. The schemes are breakthrough, harness the ley line, dig their graves, take prisoner, and deliver a message. Now, John, you played kind of one of the hotter players that we've had here in the Carolinas Conference, Damian Guy, and he's playing Bayou, and normally a Reser player, but I think he brought Bayou to this event, and he was and for those of you that are listening, you may remember Damien from the live stream. He was the Ma Tucka player on the recent live stream. But you had a nice little win there. I mean, holding Bayou to 3 points is good. You won 5-3. What happened?
Yeah, this was a weird one. It felt like I was behind the entire game, but points-wise, I was ahead. He played Ma in this round. I played Marcus. I like Marcus in plant explosives for the mobility, just being able to just shove everything across the center line. But he started doing the whole like Ma's passing out focus to everyone. So it's like, all right, I'm just going to have to weather the storm because I can't stop this from happening. He had the whole, like, I think it was 2 Rooster Riders, 2 Bushwhackers. So it's just like run everyone up into cover and just pray.
Yeah.
And he did kill some stuff, like pretty early on. He got rid of Jackalope. He severely wounded Marcus. But as the game went on, I started to score points, and he just kept trying to dump AP into killing my stuff. And he almost succeeded at a lot of different points. Miranda was clutch with the healing. I usually don't use her for that, but that was definitely what kept me in this game.
Now, it's my understanding, John, everybody tells me that Marcus is garbage. It sounds like Marcus does have play.
He does. It depends, I feel like, on the faction that you're playing against. And also, because it was a singles, format, I was more comfortable bringing him, because if there's a threat of like Jackdaw or Zoraida or anything like that that can punish him for having his upgrades, I would never take him if they could just drop that as a second master.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So key moments. So you say, the whole time you felt like you were behind, but you're just kind of scoring points. Do you think just Damien just got too tunnel visioned and wasn't paying attention, or what allowed you to come out of here?
I think that was part of it. I don't feel like there was any key moment. It was just like a slog through the whole thing. I was able to deal with his Soulstone Miner, one of his Soulstone Miners, right off the bat with my Cerberus.
Right.
He was clever with it, though. He suicided it by walking over his own pit trap so that the bomb wouldn't be given to my Sabertooth.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
So
that's a good play.
That was a good play. Yeah. I can appreciate that.
Very nice. So it's a nice 2-point win for you, John. So Brandon, you played David Longton. He comes out of the Great Lakes Conference. He's one of those guys that hopped on a plane and came into play, which was great. David, got a chance to spend time with David Friday night at the arcade before the event. And he's, from my understanding, one of the stronger players coming out of the Great Lakes Conference. And you squeaked out a 4-3 win.
Yeah. When we got back, I didn't realize who he was, but we were actually staying at the same hotel. And John actually gave him a ride back to the hotel. And we're sitting there talking about strategies on game 4, not realizing I'm playing against my opponent.
So then I'm going to do this.
So
the fact that David pulled out a notebook and started writing shit down didn't tip it off?
Well, no, because it was all theories. I had no clue what to play. I was going to go with May, but I was afraid that he was going to bring Von Stuck, and Von Stuck just destroys May.
Yeah.
So I finally we were talking to him, like, you know what? I don't care. I'm bringing May. It's my strongest. I'm coming. When I get to the field, I look at it, and it's a giant water trap in the middle with lakes going in every direction, severe covering at least almost half the terrain.
Wow.
So I decided to audible to Lynch and the I call them the 10 Thunder All-Stars of Lynch with Huggy, Dawn Serpent, Shadow Emissary, and Yasunori.
Yep.
And a little bit of tech picks. He picked Yanlo, so I tech picked in a Charm Warder for the anti-demise ability, which really came into play. Put him on the back foot real early on turn 1. With Masked Agent on Yasunori, I was able to charge into his Manos and kill Manos with 2 bombs on the top of turn 2.
Even with the anti-charge aura?
Yeah, because I was able to bring in Yasunori. So I used Huggy to obey Yasunori up a little bit. And then I still charged with Yasunori, even though I didn't get the attack, but it brought the Charm Warder with him.
Oh, right.
So it dropped Yasunori and the Charm Warder right off in Manos' face. Got 2 attacks with Yasunori, and then got my 2 attacks with my Charm Warder on turn 1.
And because of the Charm Warder, there's no demise.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. 10 Thunders are fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. You got so many tech picks, dude. It's
God
insane.
damn. That's good, Brandon. That's real. Great tech pick, dude. Tight game. So I'm anxious to hear, where you think everything made a difference.
I picked very bad schemes, and I think he did too. We were both in the boat. He was working on his finals for his paper for his college all weekend.
Yeah, David's in law school and literally was writing papers the night before.
Yeah, so I don't think his mind was all there. And of course, with me not having enough experience with the 10 Thunders, I really didn't know too much. We both picked very bad schemes. I actually picked hold up their forces, breakthrough and take prisoner on the Dead Rider.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And my thought was with the Beckoner, I can bring the rider in, ignoring all that severe, which I was able to get 1 point of each of them, and then I was able to get my bombs down, which he picked up some. But one of his other big mistakes which won me the game, or I don't want to say more or less lost in the game, was he was engaged with the rider, and he was debating, and he wanted to disengage and go drop bombs on turn 4, when he could have just ride with me and dropped bombs. So you didn't have to take the disengage, and he could have still interacted, which would have won him the game. So I got a little lucky there.
Yeah, definitely. It's easy to forget that, though. It's easy to think of Ride With Me as only being something that's useful if you're going to drag something with you. But it's a push. It's a free push. Not a free push, but it's a push that allows you to get disengaged, even if you don't take advantage of bringing somebody with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's easy to get tunnel visioned on that. So that's good. Had you had a lot of experience with Rezer Yanlo up to that point?
Not the Rezzers Yanlo. I've played against our local John. He plays 10 Thunders Yanlo. So I've had a little bit of experience with that, but I wasn't used to playing against what was the armor guy? Imazu?
Izamu.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, he had brought in Izamu, and I had a hard time dealing with the armor. And the Dead Rider, I didn't play against them too. So,
well, I was about to say that one of the big things is that Dead Rider can be a big surprise if you're not used to playing into Rezzers. And I think we're starting to see the Rezzers bringing Dead Rider a little bit more, because I do think he's one of the better riders out there, and he has a chance to have a huge game impact come turn 3, turn 4. So nice wing against a very strong player, Brandon. So good for you, Cody. You played a good buddy of ours, Owen.
Yeah.
Out of the Capital City Conference. You guys did the Terra deep dive together, so I assume it was Terra versus Terra?
Yeah. No. So, man, I have thought so much about round 4. I think it's a very weird pool for Outcast. So, I mean, before I talk about that, going into day 2, my kitchen table games came into very big for both of these rounds. So for this one, I've obviously played Outcast against, and I'm not like a complete loser. Like, so like the system I have with my wife right now is she wakes up early to take care of the 7-month-old, and then she goes to sleep early, and I have to, dream feed her and take care of the baby until like 11 o'clock. And I can't be like, screaming at 12-year-olds on the internet, like playing video games. I have to be kind of quiet. So that's why I'm mostly playing on my kitchen table, like every night for the past, like 6 months or something. So I'm not a complete loser. I just played against myself a bunch, and it helped a lot for these 2 rounds, because going into round 4 is plant standard. It's a super weird pool. I know I don't want to play the Terror Mirror, just because that sounds miserable. We can both punch each other while we're buried, so we don't bury, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? Who cares? It sounds just dumb. So I didn't want to do that. Vix is really good in this pool, but it folds to Levy. It's a decent Terra round, like I said, but I don't like Terra in Standard, and will get cracked by Zip in this round. But Vix just like stomps Zip. So it's a very weird sort of situation. And so my big meta reads going into this whole tournament was that Shinlong might be a problem and Levy might be a problem. And I think both of those meta reads were right, because a teaser for your data deep dive that you're going to do on this tournament data, Levy had a pretty abundant showing, and I think the record's probably going to be that he had a pretty positive rating as well.
Yeah.
And so I practiced the Levy mirror a bunch, and it's crazy deep. It's weird. It's weird how crazy deep it is. Like, the higher encounters go super deep down the rock, paper, scissors rabbit hole.
Yep.
It's very cool. And I knew Owen was doing your Levy deep dive.
Yep.
So I thought Owen was going to give me the Levy mirror, and I had some secret stuff up my sleeves that I was ready for. But instead, I declared Levy, and he declared Terra. Boo.
Oh, wow.
Boring. Snooze. So that's what the matchup was, at least.
Right.
So this game was, it's typical Terra stuff. He spends 3 turns buying time. I spend 3 turns killing summons and trying to threaten Aeolus. I had a pretty good play with Ashes and Dust because he's Nihilist, so he can't use him as like a summoning beacon.
Right.
Because he can't apply fast to him, really. But the story of this game was probably the end of turn 3, beginning of turn 4, where Owen telegraphed a very hard dig their graves on my Necropunk, who also had 2 bombs on him due to some models dying. And he failed to get this at turn 3. I think the last card I flipped was Red Joker, and it denied him killing him, dig their graves. So first activation, he goes with Nothing Beast, goes for the Necro. I think his first punch leaves him on 1 with Hard to Wound and the armor. And then the second punch, I flip like a 1. I say, go ahead. And he flips 2 cards. The second of those cards is the Black Joker.
Ugh.
So that would mean he didn't kill the Necropunk again, who's going to leap out, plant a bomb, get away from that scheme marker.
Yeah.
And then he's, for a second, we're like, oh, wait, you didn't count for Hard to Wound, did you? And he's like, no. And the second card was the black. So he puts the black on the top of the deck. And so Owen was a great sport about this because he had flipped the black. I wasn't there yelling at him, hard to win, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
we had just sort of a momentary lapse in the conversation there. And he was a good sport to put the black on top of the deck, which I feel like is the only real way to resolve that situation anyway.
Yeah, I like to shuffle it back in, but yeah, I'm with you.
But black is, I don't know.
It's different with the Black Joker.
Moment.
No, yeah. I agree.
But because the black is on top of the deck, my first activation, Levy goes, he shoots Aeonis for 4, killing him because he only had 4 health left. And then he shoots the Nothing Beast for 2, killing him because he only had 2 left.
See, that's the problem I have, Cody, is that you're now working with information you shouldn't have.
Yeah. It didn't change what I was going to do, but it definitely made it where...
It was a far more informed choice.
Yeah, it was... I would have did the same play anyway. I would have just had to probably know I was going to have to waste Severes out of my hand.
Right.
Instead, I just got it for free.
Yep.
So Owen was great there. And maybe we'll talk about this. Maybe Pravlik can sort of speak about this, but the problem with Terra is if you let Aeonis and Terra live to turn 5, with the 4 pass tokens and the 5 AP, spammable AP, it's almost a guaranteed 3-point swing. So killing Aeonis on turn 4 basically meant that instead of Terra going last activation, with 3 activations up on me, I got to go with Midnight Stalker last. So instead of Terra leaping around and scoring 3 points, Midnight Stalker got to leap around and do 3 points. So I won that game, I believe it was 8-6.
Yeah, 8-6. Got it. Yeah, that must have been because it's round 4, so you have all night. You know who you're going to play, and you and Owen have talked Outcast before. That must have been a nice little. But what if I bring this and then he brings that? I bet that was a bit of a rabbit hole.
Yeah, we didn't talk too much about it, which I think was the best way to do it.
That's funny.
Maybe we could have arrived on a consensus where we play, like, I don't know, Von Schilbeer or something. But that sounds boring, too. It's all boring.
Oh, that's funny.
And Mirror, that would have been...
That would have been something we haven't seen.
For good reason.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the factions have a lot of really weird, like, faction mirror things to consider.
Like what, John?
Well, for Arcanist, for example, if you bring Raspy on Raspy, everyone's ice pillars are going to slow everyone.
Yep.
That's sounds awful.
Silly. Wow.
And then you have like Karis on Raspy. Raspy can't put the ice pillars on pyre markers, so then you stop using pyre markers to damage things and start using them to stop them from putting ice pillars around. And it's a lot of weird things to consider. And I feel like a lot of factions probably have that too.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's take another break. When we get back, we're going to talk about the final round. Now, as it worked out, each of you guys were at the first table, second table, and third table, which you don't always see that happen, where you have, first, second, and third tables, and then the winners of all 3 of those end up being first, second, and third. So it's kind of interesting. It's a Corners Turf War pool, so we'll be right back. Howdy folks, Craig here. Now if you love gadgets as much as we do, you're going to love the new Third Floor Wars Gadget Bundle from Schooner Labs. Branded with the logo of your favorite podcast, it comes with 2 measuring multi-tools, a compass stepper for those tight and important movements, along with a compact dashboard to track your turn, strat, and scheme scoring along with your soul stones and pass tokens. It is the perfect bundle for anyone who plays Malifaux or just wants to look cool while doing it. The link is in the show notes. Check them out and help support your favorite gaming podcast. All right, so round 5, it's corners, turf war. Schemes are hold up their forces, power ritual, outflank, deliver a message, and vendetta. So, John, you were on the third table. And you played a real good guy who I've played before, Andrew McHenry, and he's out of the Southeast Conference, and you eked out a nice little 4-3 win.
Yeah, this was a close one. He brought Terra, which, that figures. A lot of Terra, a lot of outcasts. I brought Rasputina this round. My plan, regardless of what he brought, was to just try to play like a stall game with Raspi, and it worked just enough here.
Well, what does that mean, John? What does a stall game with Raspi mean?
So it's funny. Brandon mentioned that he really likes the Mech Rider. I really, really dislike it. But in this particular setup, it was just what I needed to score my points and keep it alive. And so what I mean by stall game is that I was using Raspi to block off some of the markers after I'd flipped them for Turf War. And then I sent the Steam Arachnid Swarm and the Blessed of December down one flank by themselves to go get 1 point for Vendetta. That's all I wanted to get out of them. And the main thing was to just draw his forces over to that flank that was completely away from everything else that I had.
Right.
So I end up getting my 1 point for Vendetta against Mad Dog. It was the Blessed onto Mad Dog. And then he kills them both, but I'm like, whatever, you're now in this corner of the board. And it's like turn 2, you've activated all this stuff. So you only have 3 turns left, and they're all the way over there. And so that leaves Raspi free to just try to, control the board a bit. He can still blow it to hell on the markers and get rid of them, but I just spread them out so that I still have threat ranges.
Yep.
I spent some time just sniping some of his minions to unflip his markers so that he had to either lose the points or waste more AP to go back and reflip them. And then I guess the key thing by the end of the game was having the Mech Rider reactivate itself twice. Actually, I think it did it all 3 turns.
Nice.
Turn 3, 4, and 5. But the big thing was being able to score Power Ritual in a way that he couldn't really stop, because I just, drop it, walk twice, reactivate, walk twice again, throw it another 6 inches. And by that point, he can't stop Power Ritual without giving up something else. So
right.
That was the last point that I needed to win.
Very nice, John. That's a strong win, and Andrew's a good player. So that's to be able to eke out a win against Andrew is impressive. So well done.
And he definitely, if it could go to turn 6, like in second edition, he absolutely would have taken this.
Right.
It was me planning. Okay, I need this much time. I have to buy myself this much time to win it, and yeah.
So, Brandon, you're on second table. You are playing Michael Roper, who in the previous round, John had a chance to play against. You, nice win, 7-5 win. What did you bring? What did Michael bring?
So I brought Mayfang again with pretty much the standard list that I like to bring her with: the Sparks, Metal Gaming, 2 of them, a Survivor, and the Metal Golem. And I also brought in a Shadow Emissary. He declared Zip, so I brought in the Shadow Emissary with the Masked Agent to get around those pesky piano markers.
Yep.
Which, really, I don't think he was expecting that, because turn 1, he brought Zip up a little bit too far and dropped piano markers, almost shutting off my deployment zone. But thanks to the Shadow Emissary, I was just able to charge into him, and at the end of round 1, Zip was surrounded by a Metal Golem, the Shadow Emissary, and May. So it wasn't too good of a time for Zip.
Yeah, and for those that aren't familiar with it, why did Masked Agent make the difference there?
Masked Agent shuts off his defensive trigger, so he can't run away.
Right, which is really the big thing that keeps Zip going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you have an opportunity now to go in on Zip, and Zip can't use his defensive trigger to get away.
Yeah, I was able to take out Zip at the second activation of turn 2.
That's huge.
He was able to bring in the first mate to kill the Shadow Emissary, but I'll take a Shadow Emissary for a Master any day.
Yeah, it's a good trade.
Yeah, and after Zip was gone, I was able to take May and the Rail Golem and just send them up one flank to deny his second point of outflank, which he was able to get turn 2, because I just wasn't quick enough to get up there. And the Midnight Stalker, just I couldn't keep up with him at all, so he got the other point. My last one is I had taken Hold Up Their Forces, and insignificant totems are the best, being able to teleport 42 inches or 24 inches up the board to get next to something.
That seems good.
And survivors are really good for that too, because I had a high crow in my hand to throw. I'm sorry, not a crow. The tome to shoot something 14 inches away. Throw you declare a trigger, throw their arms at them, drop a scrap marker in base contact with the Midnight Stalker finally to teleport my survivor into base contact with them for my second point of Hold Up Their Forces at the end.
Very nice. Very nice. That's good. That's a nice win. To be a round 5, as soon as you start winning by 2-3 points, it's a big deal, because generally round 5 you tend to have pretty close games considering how the matchups worked. So Cody, your top table, you go up against Nick from the Carolina Conference, and have a nice 7-4 win. And for those of you that weren't there, we let them play all 5 rounds, and there was probably 10 people huddled around you guys watching that last, I think, turn and a half. So walk me through what happens here.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think Nick's actually from Capital City, right? He's a Virginia Beach guy.
Yeah. What did I say? Did I say
it's a Carolina?
Oh yeah, no, he's Capital City. Yeah,
Nick was great. He was super cheerful. We were really we were talking it up in the beginning, and he was a super nice guy.
One of the nicest people you'll meet to play a game with. I mean, he's just super agreeable, knows his stuff. He's very focused. He's a clean player. Real good guy. The problem is he's also really good. Yeah,
he's definitely a threat. If I was a person angling or looking forward towards that October tournament through the Invitational, I would be definitely afraid of Nicholas and the other 2 guys on here for sure. So Nick was great. And I've played against the Shenlong list that won the English GT on my kitchen table like 10 times. And I just arrived at the point where I was just like, I have no options. I just hope I don't get this in a Killy pool. And if I get it in a Terra round, then I'll play Terra, and that'll be great. And luckily, not only did I get this exact Shenlong list, but I got it in the Terra pool, which was insanely lucky. If I play Nick any other round of the tournament, I lose. That's just for sure. So I got very lucky here. So I love Terra in this pool, and just for a brief recap, so it was corner turf, and so I'll let the other 2 guys jump in on this too. I think the initial read when you look at like corner turf and stuff is that mobility is the most important part of this type of strategy. And I think the first read of turf war in general is that if you get on the other side of the board, you win because your deaths don't count and their deaths do. But the more I've been playing turf, the more I'm thinking that is how the game operates in a match where you were going to win the game anyway, where you're going to stomp them out. So you're screaming across the board and you kill them just because you're better. Right. And in very close games, what really matters is activation control, having a lot of AP on the board, and less the position, because almost all of my close games in turf, like my master, the last turn of the game, walks and flips a button, like presses the turf marker. Have any of you guys had like a similar experience?
That's one reason why I like taking May so much, is the mobility of getting back and forth to the markers, of being able to, first 2 turns, I generally just lay out a network of scrap markers. And I tend to, sometimes I don't even score the second point on turn 3. I'm more worried about trying to get those lanes to get those markers late turns on 3 and 4, or 4 and 5.
Yeah, I think, it's just like activation control ends up being so important. Like the last activation of turn 5, if you're in a very close game, like matters super important. And that's the way this Terra game really came down to that. I brought my Hannah and Scavenger out of keyword for my OP combo so that maybe they could kill Yas or Kitty or something like that. And the first few turns went really well. I was able to bog him down with Wretches, and he was summoning so many of those stupid paper boys. God! Minoko? Is that her name? Minako?
Yeah.
Minoko?
Yeah.
She's so stupid.
Yeah, she's good.
She's like guaranteed that she will make more points than her cost. She's insane. Yep. He summoned like as many paper boys as I summoned Void Wretches with playing my Summer Master, which should have telegraphed his schemes, but it didn't really. So the important part going into turn 5 is that at the end of turn 4, he had punched in my left flank, I had punched in his right flank, but he had outflank and I didn't. So I didn't care about losing a flank. And by punching in, I mean I killed 2 models that were actually killable and then buried Yasunori. So when he comes back up, he's flopping the other side of the board.
Yep.
And turn 4, at the end of turn 4, he makes a very awesome move to move up and score his hold up the forces on my left side of the board with my Hannah and my Scavenger. But this gives me a huge leg up going into turn 5 because he can't kill those models or he won't have a way to score hold up.
Right.
So going into turn 5, it looked like a tie game until I did Terra shenanigans and I generated 4 pass tokens and just waited out all of his activations. And Nicholas had a very good sportsman move here that I want to highlight because at one point I asked him, wait, before I do that, we got to talk about, I guess, the reason our game took like 15 minutes extra is first activation at turn 5. Hannah's on 2 HP. It's the only way for him to hold up the forces. I think that she can damage herself for a suit and kill herself. So I do that, and then we call you over, call Jesse over, call Jeff over, call everyone over to see if that's actually legal.
Right.
And you can't do that because
there's a choice.
Yeah. So with Levy, the choice is on the thing you do, not on the take damage part.
Correct.
But with Hannah, the choice is on the take damage part.
Right. So to clarify for those listening, and with Hannah, it says you may take damage to do X. And in that case, you can't kill yourself because you're choosing to take damage. Whereas in Levy, you're not choosing to take damage. The choice is somewhere else.
So Nick was a great sportsman about that. He did this awesome play where he activated Shenlong, put on his stupid healing upgrade, and healed Hannah like 9 HP. So I'm like, oh, touche. But I had to liver. So I go, is there any way you can move Shenlong? He's like, no, I don't think so. So I have my Scavenger leap out of melee and plant a scheme marker right underneath Shenlong. And then he goes, oh, wait, actually, Yasunori is about to come up from being buried, and he can move them. So he lets me move it back. And
nice.
Yeah. So
that's Nick, though. That's good.
Yeah, he did great. Yeah. That's the correct way. So basically the way it came down is I just generate my 4 pass tokens, and after he's done doing everything, my Scavenger still leaps out. He plants a scheme marker. Terra screams across the board with like 3 leaps, drops too fast, summons 2 models, scores my second hold up, and I get the 3rd marker. So I had a 3-point swing pretty easily.
Yeah, and the game was a lot tighter than that 7-4 shows.
I scored 3 points after he was done activating on 25.
Right.
Yeah.
He was done playing. Yeah. At that point, you scored 3 points. And so during one of the breaks, we had kind of a side chat, and I want to kind of bring it back here to so everybody can hear it. And it kind of ties closely, Cody, to what you were talking about. So you, Brandon, and John and I were talking about Yoku, But I think we need to start about, you talking about pass tokens, because, pass tokens came into play to help mitigate activation control. And a lot of people are talking about how activation control is not a thing anymore. And I think we need to be very careful when we say that. Activation control is a thing. It's just not as easy to get as it used to be, right? Mm-hmm. You used to just be able to spam models. So Cody, let's talk about pass tokens and activation control.
Yeah. So the thing with Terra is she doesn't function without them because she has to put fast on models. And if you're not out activating, you're just buffing the enemy models. But it ends up making this weird situation that we've been talking about where if Aeolus and Terra are alive on turn 5, I get a 3-point swing for free.
Yep.
Which is pretty messed up, especially if you don't know that you need to prioritize killing those very killable models as soon as possible. And yeah, with Yoko, I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential in just basically doing the exact same strategy. I've seen a lot of people using those pass tokens for leverage, and like a plus flip, that's nothing. Like Parker has that on all of his crappy minions. So like, I don't know, Brandon, if you've been thinking of Yoko more along the same lines as I've been thinking about Terra.
So yeah, I started the first couple games, I fell into that leverage trap. I still do it every once in a while, but I was wasting a lot of pass tokens to get those positive flips. And the more I saw them, it was a lot better to use them for the activation control and also the initiative flips as well. Because if I can go last with a Hinamatsu and put 4 to 6 attacks into somebody and guarantee my first activation, I'm wiping a model off the table, any model I want almost.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you should look at them similar to Soulstones, how you can stone for a positive, and sometimes that's the right move. But generally, you don't want to do that because that's not an efficient use of your stones. And I feel like with Yoko, you get the same situation just with a different resource.
That's a good analogy, John. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I'm not saying this is an answer, but it was kind of interesting. And so I've been playing some Marvel Crisis Protocol lately. And they have a pass mechanic in that, but it's super simple, which is if it's your turn and your opponent has more active models left than you do, you can just pass. So it's not a resource. It's not something you pick up and use. It's just like it's impossible to be out activated in Marvel Crisis Protocol unless you let it happen. Which I don't think we could do in Malifaux, right? Because it's not as simple of a game and the model count's higher, but I thought it was an interesting approach to this. And I don't know. I struggle with it because, part of me says, that shouldn't be a thing. You shouldn't ever be in a situation where your opponent has 4 unanswered activations or 3 unanswered activations or 2 unanswered activations at the end of the turn, unless you've let it happen. I don't know.
Yeah, killing a single activation can basically win you a turn 4 game, I feel like. If you just, I got last activation, checkmate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
That's also why I think Yoko is so strong into the idols, because you can kick the idols back on my side, but if I have activation control, at the end of my turn, I can just throw them right back onto your side, and you have no answer to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason, for those of you that, maybe haven't processed this yet, to have 1 or 2 unanswered activations at the end of the turn is huge because those 1 or 2 things happen, the opponent doesn't react, and then you score. And it's hard to explain at a theory level. You have to see it and feel it. And when it's done to you, you just realize how huge it is that you sit back and you're done playing for that turn. Your opponent still has 1 or 2 models left to go, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then we score, and then we start on the next turn.
Especially on turn 5 if there is no next turn.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and the one thing that's important is that this doesn't devolve into a developer conversation,
right? Which none of us are good at. So
what I'm trying to say is like pass tokens. Like activation control, what it is in the name. It's a control effect. And if you do not correctly assess that you are being controlled by these pass tokens and you do not play a little risky, you do not scream across, you have to scream across the board and kill Aeolus. You have to scream across the board and kill those stupid Tanuki or whatever that's going to give Yoko staying power. You have to realize that activation control models are control models.
Yep. No, that's a good point, Cody. I mean, we bitch about it because maybe we're bad against it, and we let it happen, right?
Yeah. And also, I think it's just a new mechanic because we had like board control, we had hand control in second edition and all that stuff, but we've never had something like this because there's always been activation control, but that was just based on models,
right?
And getting more of them. But this is something different that I think people are still adjusting to.
No, that's a good point. Well, gentlemen, congratulations. That was, we had almost 30 people there. A really tough competitive field. There wasn't a cakewalk in the place, and for you guys to make Podium is a big deal. Before we head out, Brandon, John, do you have anything you guys want to plug?
Nothing I can say.
No. All right. Cody, how about you?
Shout out the Floorheads. What's up? Buy those shirts.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if I'll have the shirts out by the time this gets released, but the design process has begun. I've got to just goof it around with some other things.
I can't wait to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, John and Brandon, I look forward to having you back on the show again soon. And Cody, at this point, I think we got to just say enough's enough, right?
Yeah, later, dude.
All right. You guys have a good one. Thanks for listening. Take care. Be sure to check out our shop on thirdfloorwars.com for the latest gaming apparel and gear. While you're there, check out how the USFO Tour is shaping up. How does your conference compare to the others in the United States? Where do you rank nationally? Get those models built, painted, and on the table so we can see you at the US Masters Invitational in October of 2020. Also, rate and write a review on this podcast for us. It really helps us find people almost as cool as you are. Thanks for listening. Howdy friend, Craig here. Is this episode making you realize you need to buy some models? Gadzooks Gaming is my favorite online retailer because of their large selection, killer prices, and great customer service. Don't you hate buying an entire crew box when you only need one model? Gadzooks sells crew box models individually and saves you a ton of money. They even have free shipping to the US and Canada if you spend $100 or more. Swing by gadzooksgaming.com and make sure you tell them Craig from the Third Floor sent you. All the details are in the show notes. All right. We are ripping through this pretty good, guys, for 5 rounds. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're going too fast? Do we need to...
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Because we're at an hour and a half right now.
Okay, great.
So we'll end up under 2 hours.
Cool.
Awesome.
I won't do a... you know what I might do, though? I might prompt you, Cody, to... talk about Yoku a little bit at the very end, because that conversation we had during the break I think is a good one, and Brandon can come in and jump in. So I might tee you off at the very end.
Yeah, I'm going to complain about pass tokens again when I go to my 5th round. So
Perfect.
That's a decent segue.
All right, good. All right.
God, I hate Terra so much.
Yeah, dude.
Was that like your first time, John, really like seeing?
It was. Yeah. I saw a bit of it on the live stream. I didn't catch the entire game. And you have to see it in person to understand what is about to happen. You
have to have very particular target selection, because if you just let certain models slip to turn 5, it's a free 3 to 4 point swing.
Yeah.
Like, you have to know what to kill.
There are moments when you go up against Tar where you're like, I got nothing. Like, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do to answer any of this bullshit.
That's what my entire game was.
The pass tokens are pretty big MPE, but she wouldn't function without them.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I haven't seen more Yoko players playing like Brandon's talking about, where it's like, I've seen so many Yoko, like, every time I've seen Yoko, they're using the pass tokens for the plus flips. Like, that seems like such a massive waste of that resource. Like, pass
that
tokens
is pretty
are
inefficient.
Busted. Like, activation control is busted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually took her into a tournament this weekend and almost made one of my local players quit because he thinks Yoku is now the easy button. He just ripping his control hand apart. He had no control hand every turn. Yeah. Negative flips on everything. It was just bad.
You know, it's funny. I had that same experience at Nova, and I was ready to quit that game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I still won it. And the whole time I was like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, the thing about her is that she's so different. And the first time you go up against it, you're like, what the hell is going on right now?
Yeah.
And you, as Malifaux players, we are so reliant on our control hands. Like, we build everything around it. And you have something that can aggressively attack it like that, and that's brutal. All right. I'll bring us back for round 4.